are joining who don't know me or may not know me, my name is Jackie. I'm the founder of The Well Connected, which is a lifestyle creative agency here in Toronto, and I connect with a lot of people. So one of the people I will be going live with today is my Woman Crush Wednesday for this Wednesday. I actually met this beauty in Australia. We'd gone on some type of like mission trip to Australia, and we met over there, and since then I've been following her platform, seeing the work she does. She's honestly an amazing woman, gives her heart out to people, and is really on a path and a purpose to enrich and uplift the lives of other people. She is a multi-mogul, serial entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Epic Fab Girl, okay? And tonight we're going to discuss, she's going to give us some insights on purpose, on faith, on business, and faith in business, because those are two different things. But I'm going to let Candace do that talking for herself. I'm going to let her introduce herself. So I'm going to just log her in. And I got some notes. Hey, Janelle. So I got some notes, guys, so don't mind me. Just let me get... Hey,
Hey,
boo.
Jackie, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Girl, I am good. Corona has been, even quarantine, I'll say, has been treating me well. But how are you?
You know what? I'm good. It was snowing a little bit here in Toronto, a little bit. And so I wasn't really... Sorry, let me turn
Girl,
off
you look
my...
like you're on an island somewhere.
Good. Okay, so let me tell you about my little backdrop before we got up, okay? So my friend Shani Cares, if you all don't follow Shani Cares, you need to follow her. She's one of the realists. She's an Aries, though I'm a Virgo. She goes hard for her people. But she gave me, her brother and her gave me these beautiful synthetic leaves, and I didn't know what to do with them. And so I'm actually sitting in my bed because it's where I spend most of my time and inspiration.
Yes.
Concept behind this essentially is, I'll kind of pull it up so you guys can see. There's a mood board up there that I got to fill. But
Fancy.
essentially the goal for this is when I'm sleeping and I'm dreaming and I'm cultivating, because I am a visionary, so I get a lot of my ideas and messages from God through my sleep. So I believe when I'm sleeping, I'm cultivating my dreams above. So anything that hangs
Yeah,
above, I'm really cultivating that. So that's kind of where that came from.
I love it.
Yes, thank you.
Looks
But
great.
yes, girl, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Awesome. So, hey, everybody. And Jackie, just thank you for having me and even pulling me in for this. My name is Candace Armour. I go by Candace Junee online. I am, as you said, a serial entrepreneur. Long story short version of my life is that, I kind of did what I was supposed to do academically, got, 2 degrees. I actually studied mechanical engineering in undergrad, transitioned into getting a master's in business. And so by the time I was 23, I was literally working in corporate America, living what, people consider really the American dream. But very shortly after being in corporate for a little while, I realized that I really wanted to help other people in a significant way, even though I had my hands in like really major brands and just different initiatives that they were doing from a technology and marketing perspective. I really wanted to impact people in a way that I felt like I could feel them and impact their lives in a meaningful way. And so that's kind of where Epic Fab Girl came from. We created a brand really to help women discover purpose and go after their dreams fearlessly. And that has evolved into a community for faith-based women entrepreneurs. And so we help them build profitable brands and grow their faith. So that's what I do from an Epic Fab Girl brand perspective. But I also run a digital marketing agency, which is where I took kind of like the information that I knew from corporate, along with having launched multiple businesses over the years using social media. I really help my clients basically better connect with their audiences using Instagram, Facebook, email marketing, pretty much digital marketing channels, just helping them to connect and really have impact, but also kind of generate, additional income from, social media channels. So that's what I do
I,
currently.
I love that. And for all the men that are in there, don't worry. A lot of this information can apply to y'all too.
Yes.
I definitely eventually, when I keep this running, I definitely want to get pulling more with men. Because a little back burner, a couple years ago, 2016-17, I started a magazine called Connected Mag, and it was this concept where I interview people and talk to them and have a conversation. But running a magazine is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Nobody got time for that. So I wanted to really bring back the platform in an interactive way. And what better way to start with us being in COVID and having nothing to do, being able to talk to people across the world. So before we jump into this, tell us where you are from, where are you based, where are you hailing from today?
Yeah, so I'm actually from Chicago. I live in Chicago currently. I've tried so hard to get out of Chicago, but this is home.
You know, I was there for the first time with my friend and partner, Frida. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, we were there for All-Star, and I didn't even get a chance to connect with you on your birthday.
Girl.
Freezing.
Next
Canada
level.
is cold, but it was a different type of cold, and I didn't understand. But Chicago was so much fun, but I definitely want to go back in the summer.
Yes.
Spend time with you, spend time with KJ, come see a bunch of people, you know?
That'd be fun.
But like you were talking about, when you were talking about faith, I really want to jump into that because, so I got some notes here. Oh, sorry, before I get to faith, let me back that all the way up. Let's talk about purpose. And purpose is something that I don't think a lot of us know. I don't think a lot of us understand. Some people refer to their purpose as their anointing.
Yeah.
If you are I like to say, you know, what is my anointing rather than purpose. But, you know, there's a lot of us that struggle with our purpose. And I could attest to that. Like, I don't really know what my purpose is. I just know I like people. I know I want to connect with people. How that manifests, I don't know. But in your definition, in your words, what is purpose to you?
Yeah, I love that you brought up like the purpose and the anointing piece. And I also kind of want to create a distinction between anointing and purpose. I think about purpose as being something that's multifaceted, and it's basically what you were created to do. But I think about an anointing is for an assignment. So you may have an assignment in a current season of your life to pour into, you know, women and mentor women that have gone through domestic violence, right? You may be anointed to do that thing in that current season. So you're anointed to do that because you have a grace, or it'll just kind of come easy to you. But then purpose you may be anointed to do multiple different things, and that culmination of that is really your purpose. So, you know, many of us have multiple different purposes. Even I like to explain it kind of how a car is. If you think about a vehicle, you know, a car, there's so many different type of vehicles. Like the sole purpose of a vehicle is to get you from point A to point B. But some, you know, vehicles are semi trucks. Some of them are luxury vehicles. Some of them are convertibles, and they all have a different purpose, but they essentially do the same thing. And I like to explain purpose from that perspective because really to know your purpose and to get clarity on it, you have to consult with, you know, the creator. Like whoever engineered that thing, whoever engineered us is going to have the most clarity about our purpose. So if you know, have a Mercedes Benz, if you talk to the designers or the engineers who created it, they're going to say, hey, I bet you didn't know that your car has this functionality. There's so many things in our cars that we're like, we don't know that, you know, it's a thing until it goes wrong. And they're like, oh, all you have to do is push this button. And it's cool because the creator knows the creation better than the creation knows itself. And so I think about purpose as being something that's multifaceted, that is not limited. Like you don't have to use every aspect of your purpose every single day, but it's kind of a guide to tell you, you know, what you should be doing. And it's the things that you essentially were created and placed on this earth to do.
It's interesting that you say that, because for me, a lot of people who know when I talk about goals and planning, I talk about soul goals. And for me, soul goals are like those purposeful things I'm supposed to do. But I also look at my purpose as the quirky things, the little things, the things that you find were stupid and you find were dumb. Those are the things that's your calling. Because I look at this. Somebody thought to create a Post-it, a piece of paper with self-adhesive on the back, and they thought that this was going to be the bee's knees. And I'm sure people told them that it was stupid, but their purpose was to create an aid for people who need notes on the fly, and that's what they did. And it was so stupid, small, things that people think inadequate are what you're drawn to. So I always tell people, go back to the things that bring you joy.
Yeah.
And I even find during this downtime right now, like COVID-19 has impacted a lot of people's purpose, because a lot of us don't know where we stand.
Yeah.
We thought our purpose was just our job. We thought our purpose
Girl.
was in that money. And for me, I'm a Virgo. I work hard, and I've been grinding. And then COVID-19 happened and stopped my industry.
Yeah.
Stopped sponsorship. And I was like, oh my God, I have no purpose. Like, I was doing the most, the dramatic of a Virgo,
Yeah.
doing the most, because I thought that was my purpose. And then recently I've been getting back to my original purpose in life, which was fashion design. So for those who don't know, I actually studied design. I want to be a bridal designer. So I actually have a design degree. And I started coloring again. I started sketching. I went through the basement and found all my old sewing stuff and my clothes from from school, and started getting that to get that purpose. So I've realized my purpose is creativity. How I channel that creativity, I don't know. So I've been asking God to kind of show me a way, or ignite something in me to see that purpose. But what would you say for people during this downtime, especially in COVID-19, who seem to have maybe lost their purpose? How can they reignite that flame, or like even keep going when there's so much uncertainty?
Yeah. Okay. So I love that you're asking this question, because I think honestly, COVID-19 and just quarantine caused a lot of us to just stop and pause. And I think, because of society, we've been conditioned to just go, 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 do, achieve, achieve, achieve. But before you go, 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 do, and achieve, 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 you have to take some time to step back and say, what is the plan? What is the vision, so that I can go after it? That's why, successful people create goals or like life visions. And part of my story, and I recently told this again in the summit that I'm actually hosting right now, is my story of discovering purpose. And it came from a time when I started to discover my purpose when I was in college. And I just kind of was asking God, like, okay, what is my purpose? But I felt like there were so many things in the way of me really getting clarity about it. And one of the things for me at the time was a relationship, because I was like so in love with this guy, and we just knew we were going to get married. Long story short, I just kept being like, God, if this isn't the person you want me to be with, then like make it super clear. Long story short, we didn't end up together, but that moment was a reminder to me that God wanted my attention, and that he wanted to remove the distractions from my life so that I could get clarity. And what I did during that time was I took time away from everyone else. Like, I was on Christmas break at the time. So I took time to like not call my friends. I took time to not reach out to people. I took time to read more. I took time to write down like what I was passionate about. I took time to be quiet and pray. And I think that one of the best things that you can do, and one of the biggest gifts that, coronavirus is to us, and the environment that quarantine has created, is that we're forced to deal with ourselves. We're forced to deal with our thoughts. We're forced to deal with, the things that in our life that we're not necessarily comfortable with, and figuring out how do we change that. And so I think if you're in a position where you're like, okay, I want to understand my purpose, I think the best thing you can do is like to reel back and to, kind of use this time to be quiet, and to get invested in your future. And I always say that the purpose is a culmination of several different things. You have to think about your gifts and your talents. What things are you gifted in that comes easy to you, but is difficult for other people? What things are you passionate about? Because purpose isn't always about passion. You can be passionate. Like, for example, I love hair. Like, I love beauty. I was passionate about that, but like, I'm not a hairstylist. I mean, in college, that's what I used to get money, but that was a part of the journey. I also talk about how purpose is also, what are the things about the world that you desire to change? What are the things that make you upset? So if you are upset during COVID-19 that, there are communities of people that are overlooked, that, are not getting paid attention to, maybe that's a part of your purpose, because you're called to change those things. So you have to ask yourself, what skills, what talents, what passions, what makes me angry, and also just kind of what is my unique perspective? What, because I believe a lot of times in situations, and in we all have a unique perspective, and we've been placed in situations from time to time that maybe you're the only black, like for example, for me, I was the only black woman. Like when I was working in my corporate job, oftentimes I would be the only black person in the room, the only woman in the room, the only person under 30, like the only person of color. And I would be that person in the room time and time again. But being that only person in the room gave me a perspective that not everybody had. So, and when I go into rooms of people that do look like me, I know I have a unique perspective because I've seen things that maybe not everyone who looks like me, acts like me, all these things have seen. So you have to ask yourself, what other unique perspective, I don't care how annoying it was, maybe learn how to do Photoshop while, on a certain job, and you got really good at that. Think about what unique perspectives you have that other people don't have, and they add value to the people around you by way of your experiences. So, yeah.
You know what's funny? For when I talk to my people, anybody who knows that's jumped into any one of my PR chats, I talk about unique value proposition.
Yep.
That itself is the quirky things, the things that nobody does. And when you talk about being the only black person in the room, I've been an intern at a few PR agencies. I've worked in a few, and I was at a film agency. I was the only black girl.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to change the narrative, not that anybody was racist, everybody was amazing, but the opportunity to educate and change the narrative, and also see how you show up in that space as well, and learn. And also for me, I grew up in a house, for those who've been to my home, my dad's an artist. And I'm talking watercolor portraits. So I grew up going to art galleries, being the only black family, black mother, black father, black sister, black daughters, to these functioning art galleries, and seen a different way of life. But you said something important about being still. And being still is a very hard thing for a lot of either entrepreneurs, millennials, mothers, fathers, people that just have this passion that you said. Being still is really hard. Being still, for me, has come in a few chapters. I was in a relationship for about almost 6 years. And for 3 years now, I've been 2.5 years, almost 3, I've been single. And being single has taught me to be still and start identifying myself, because when you're in a relationship or you're in a job or your mind is focused on something else, a lot of you gets left behind, and that includes your purpose. That might include your anointing. That might include what the things you're supposed to do. And COVID-19 has humbled me to the fullest right now, you guys, in terms of just sitting down. I feel like this was a wake-up call for me, especially from God, to be like, Jackie, you need to relax. I've been just go for the past 2 years. And it's like, you're going, that saying that a lot of people go places fast, but they ain't got nowhere to go? That's how it felt. And so a lot of the still time in this has been, like you said, finding your passions again, finding your creativity, really asking yourself, what are you good at? Because I could do wigs. I'm not a wake-up person, but I'm a professor. I can sew. I can craft. I could do so many things. But what are you really good at? What ignites your fire every day that you want to do, that you're going to get up and that's going to make you money? And moving right after that is let's go right into faith, because, girl, faith has challenged me. I'm going to be very open and transparent. I with the keeping up of the gratitude, keeping up of faith, because there are days I'm like, yes, God, and there's other days I'm like, God, I see what you do for others, and I'm not complaining, but what's going on. So I find with COVID-19, especially with COVID-19, I'm going to talk on that, not just from an entrepreneurial person, but I'm going to talk about mothers or fathers or people who have a corporate job. I feel like this is all we knew. And COVID-19 ripped everything out from underneath us. And I'll be the first to put up my hand. And if you all are in the chat, I would love, if you want to be honest, no judgment zone over here, circle of trust. But I struggled. I asked God, what's going on? Why, God, I finally thought I was on a plan. I finally thought I had it together. And here you come, just, God, like, what's going on? So, no, I had some questions. I was upset. I was down. I was depressed. I was struggling because I didn't understand. And for me, the Virgo in me is very practical. I see things. So to trust that blind faith, I go in and out. So can we talk about what faith means to you and how it motivates you to do the things you do, even when times are so turbulent?
Well, thank you for being transparent and honest. I think that is going to help even your audience, and even just when you think about faith, like faith isn't necessarily perfect. I think for me, like because I'm a woman of such like big faith, and like I have such like, I feel like I have a gift of faith. Like I have a level of faith that not many people would be able to walk in. Like if they saw like my life, they would be like, girl, how are you still walking? How are you still doing this? But it's because I maintain like such a connection with like God. So like I'm very intentional about building my relationship with God, because faith is nothing but trusting God and trusting his plan and not doubting what he said was already going to happen. And so the Bible says is that, like, I mean, we walk by faith and not by sight. So you said something earlier, like, what does blind faith look like? And it looks like trusting that the person that you're following, you know, has your best interest at heart, even though you see everything around you crumbling, not making sense. And so I think one of the things that really helped me is kind of revisiting what you talked about earlier of being still. Was I would say last year, 2019 was a very hard year for me. Like I was super depressed. I was really like just not in a good place towards the end of 2019. And the thing that really made me shift was to start journaling and being still every single morning. So before I picked up my phone to check anything, before I did anything, I literally got up and I sat with my thoughts. And I let myself hear my thoughts. Like I would be like, oh my God, how are we going to pay this bill? What are we going to do about this? You have this, 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 and that. And I started to be mindful about how I would wake up with all these thoughts in my mind. And if I would have just gone into the rest of the day, I would have never addressed them. And so what I had to start to do was, okay, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Let's journal this out, but let's point out the stuff in here that's actually true. And let's cancel out everything that's not true, anything that's an assumption, anything that, because once I started to do that, I started to understand that, you know, a lot of time you're like, faith is literally about your beliefs. Like your faith is about what you choose to believe. And our thoughts are things that, you know, we can choose to believe them or not. And even in the Bible, it literally says, take every thought captive that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. And what that basically tells us is that our thoughts, we have the ability to control what we continue to think about. The thought may come up, but you continuing to think about that is you feeding your fear over feeding faith. And so what I had to do was like really reel back and say, okay, what of this is true? What if this is not true? And how do I, you know, really say, okay, I'm going to trust God. And I think for me, how I've learned to develop faith is to, like to take things day by day, because a lot of times what happens is we get worried and concerned about assumptions that we've made about the future. And that's why I've realized so many people panicked when it came to COVID-19. That's why immediately everybody was snatching up groceries in the store, because they're afraid. Like you're nervous about tomorrow. Why are you so nervous about tomorrow? Why do you not trust? And it's okay. Like we all have to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we freak out, you know, but we have to be real with ourselves. Like, let's face the facts and be reminded about what God says. And for me, I'm always reminded that God says he will never leave me nor forsake me, that he is always with me, that he is my provider, that the earth is his and the fullness thereof. All of those things, if God has everything at his fingertips that he can give to me, the Bible literally says there's no good thing that God will withhold from those who walk uprightly before him. So if I know I'm walking uprightly and I'm doing my thing, I have nothing to worry about, because he's going to give me the good things when it's time. But maybe there's a reason why he hasn't given it to me yet. I just have to trust his plan, his timing. And so I think it's a mix of you understanding from yourself, like, okay, let me address these thoughts in my head, but also thank you. I see y'all seeing it in writing, but you have to address the thoughts in your head, but it really comes from relationship. Even in the same way, if you have a new boyfriend, you may be like, okay, he might be texting somebody else. He may be doing whatever, but you can't trust them because you don't have enough history with them. Woo, this is good. What I'm about to tell you is good. The more history you have with God, the more you'll be able to trust him. So because he got me through it the last time, I know without a shadow of a doubt, He's going to come through this time. I've seen it happen before. And so for me, because of my history with God, I reference, okay, when was the last time I was feeling and thinking this way and what happened? So I get myself out of that place by reminding myself of what God did for me. And then I'm honest and transparent with people, like, look, I'm struggling today. Like, can you, like, and I have conversations with my friends and they talk me out of that dark place a lot of times because I'm willing to be honest with where I'm at and with the fact that I feel like I have journals written to God that literally say, Lord, I do not feel like a child of God right now. I feel like I'm begging you to save me. Why does it feel like this? And, you know, I feel like I want to trust you, but I don't. Like, so being very honest with God. And I think because we've encountered religion so much in our lives, we feel like we need to approach God a certain way. But God can deal with the fact that, like, God is everywhere. He's seen you have sex. He's seen you cuss. He's seen it all. So why are we trying to act this way when it comes to God and our feelings and our emotions? Like, he can handle that too. So that's what
you came with a word, girl. We got a little bit of this, but no, what you was like, you were speaking some facts. Like, well, I want to talk about intentional. That has been a big thing. Being intentional with the way you pray, the way you think, the way you talk, the way you manifest, the way you deal with people. Even for me, the word, that tongue, I have a very negative tongue when it comes to myself because of the standards I set for myself. And I understand, like, that relationship, if you're very negative all the time or you talk down with yourself all the time, that trust, that faith in things, regardless if you believe in God or not, that faith of things getting better is not going to happen if you continue to block those blessings. And you know, one thing is being open and with the people around you. Like, I remember my friend had an honest conversation with me earlier this year talking about she feels like she knows that I would show up for her in a time of need, but she doesn't feel like she could show up for me because I don't let her or I don't allow her to. And a couple years ago, I would have been very much in my feelings about this, took it to heart, like, oh my God. But I understand that I shut down. It's just how I'm wired. I need to process my feelings. So while I was going through the last couple of weeks not feeling too good, when people would message me like, how are you doing? Instead of my normal, oh, I'm good, how you doing? I literally was like, I'm okay. And they were like, what does that mean? And they're like, some people were shocked because they're like, Jackie's always okay. And I allowed for other people to be there for me, and without feeling that, I don't want to burden them, or I don't want to hurt them. I stopped making decisions for people, which a lot of us do. And I allowed to be here for me. And now, like, this week, my whole mindset has changed in the terms of, like, you know, how I'm looking at this week. And again, I am going to revert back because you can't always be on, but that faith in knowing that, you know what, Jackie, you'll be fine. Like, you are destined. I feel that I'm destined for greatness, so I got to step up in that way. But I like that you were talking about you sit with your thoughts and you journal and stuff like that. Are there any other ways that you practice faith outside of maybe going to church or what other things? Is there any other ways that you practice that, or some tips you could share with people on practicing faith, regardless of it may be, you know, we believe in God, but if somebody's faith gets others say, how can they practice that?
I think in order to have faith, like, faith is all about your belief. So it's like, what thoughts are you feeding? And so I think sometimes we don't even realize that we are operating on beliefs that are in our head. Like, we're taking action on beliefs. So for example, you know, because I help a lot of women entrepreneurs build their brands, one of the things that I'll encounter when I'm talking to people is that they'll say, you know, but people won't buy that, you know, people won't buy that for me. Or like, and it'll be like, okay, why do you believe this? And they're like, because X, Y, and Z. But it's like, you have to recognize that even that belief is an assumption. So just really kind of, like I said, still being intentional about those practical thoughts of saying, okay, how do I change my understanding of why, like, of this thing, and how do I also address the root of the issue? Like, why do I believe that? Like, is there a lack mentality there? Like, so I think a lot of it is, you know, when you're addressing these thoughts and these feelings, asking yourself and digging a little deeper to peel back the onion to say, okay, why do I believe that? Is it because I feel like I'm not worthy? Is it because I feel like I don't have the schooling? Is it because I feel like, you know, no one's going to listen to me? Or maybe I'm the youngest child in my family and no one's ever listened to me, so I don't think people are going to listen to me now. So you have to start digging deeper. And, you know, I'm a big advocate of like mental health and having a therapist. And honestly, I think, you know, having a therapist is one of the things that can help you build your faith, because your therapist will really help you address your thought life and help you to understand, you know, what is you fabricating things that don't make sense in your head versus you basing, you know, your actions and your beliefs on, you know, things that aren't really true. Yeah.
Well, I tell people all the time, you'll see it's talking about imposter syndrome.
Yep.
You know, I was when I was doing Bible study, we talked a lot about ideologist, or like, you know, that kind of thing. But I will say, we have to do a lot of internal work. I am on a mission and a journey of self-auditing, auditing, asking your friends, how do you show up in my, like, how do you want me to show up in your life? Because I promise you, everybody thinks they're the best friend of all their friends. I promise. Ask all your friends what you have done wrong, and there's going to be a list that you are not prepared for.
Yeah.
So I self-auditing yourself and asking your friends, like, how can I show up for you? How can I be there? And again, once you start understanding where you fit in into life, you'll start understanding all the small puzzle pieces. So let's talk a little bit about faith in business, because faith is one thing, but faith in business. And I know you talk a lot and avidly. I've watched a lot of your lives. I follow you obviously for a while, so I know a bit of your history. How has faith played a role in the business that you have currently?
Yeah, I think faith is one of those things where, like, I think me and a lot of my entrepreneur friends have talked about this recently. Like, everyone gets celebrated when they start something, but faith is required for you to keep going and not give up, even when the going gets tough. And so, you know, one of the narratives that I talked about so much in the past year is like, entrepreneurship is not easy. Like, what goes on behind the scenes is not easy. The work that's required to get there is not easy. You may encounter things that you have no idea how to deal with, and that's not easy. And I'm always reminded, by way of being connected with other entrepreneurs, that I'm not in it alone. But I think when it comes to faith in business, you have to revisit what you started for, why you started, the original reason and purpose of what you were doing, and revisit and see if that is still just as important as it once was, so that you can continue to pursue it. Because faith really comes into like play when you have an idea or something that you believe in and you're hearing a no about it. Or, you know, maybe like you said, you work in the sponsor space. So maybe you have a really dope event that needs to get funded, and you've been telling everybody about it, and time and time again, they're like, no, you know, like they're shooting it down from a perspective of we don't have the money to invest in that. And that can be hurtful. Like, if you align, I will say that can be hurtful if you align your personal identity with your business identity. And I think entrepreneurs need to separate their personal identity from their business identity, because just because your business is a failure, or you feel like you have a failure in business, that doesn't mean you as a person are a failure, or all of that stuff. So if you're not careful to separate the two, you'll end up really taking a hit, not just to your faith, but to your personal identity, where you're really struggling to believe, like, okay, am I enough? Is this right? And so I think faith comes into play when, you know, you're hearing no's from people. And when you're hearing, you know, people be like, oh, this is cool, but maybe not. Or, you know, you want to partner with someone. There's just so many instances where, you know, your faith can be attacked when you are an entrepreneur, or even if you launch a product and nobody buys, like, and, you know, being like, okay, what did we do wrong? Instead of like making the decision to pivot, instead of making the decision to like cower back and be like, oh, this isn't like, you have to have faith that this thing will one day work out, and you just have to keep iterating till you get to a point where it's successful, or to the point where you are making sales more consistently. But every entrepreneur has to go through that.
100, and listen, you've been coming with the facts. I can't even take the pressure, because it is so true. Like, I tell everybody, listen, the same way you have check-ins with your boss about the
Yeah.
progress and what you're doing, the same way you check in with your husband or wife at night, you got to check into your business.
Yeah.
One thing I learned a couple years ago when I was an intern, years ago, one of her name was Priya, and she had mentioned you got to treat your business like a client.
Yeah.
So the same energy you give to your client or the same energy you give to your boss, check in with your business. I literally have on my phone, on my wall, on my top of my laptop, a mantra that I read every month. It changes, but there's a mantra that I read, but I have this one thing on the corner of my wall that is the 10 commandments of my business, the 10 commandments of self. I had created my own 10 commandments of the things that I require to be great. And the 10 commandments of your business is very important. I read that every single day, because the days, I'm telling you, when I want to fling my laptop and throw in the towel about my brand, I had to come back to the 10 commandments of my brand and come back to why I started this.
Yeah.
Even today, I wasn't sure that, I should have posted this a lot, like a few days ahead so we could get more ramp up. But I was like, how many people are going to join into the live? I don't know. There's always that, you never know. But like, even if I have one person, even if I have 200, I'm still going to put that effort out there because that is my mission. So moving into entrepreneurship and business itself, I do want to talk about it on a whole, like we were just talking about, a lot of businesses and the people have been affected through coronavirus. And I was talking to my friend Mac this morning, and we were talking about, in the beginning of coronavirus, there was this big surge uproar on Instagram about, if you're not using this downtime to build a brand or start a business, I'm not going to front. I subscribe to that. I was like, yeah, you need to be doing this and that. But then there came the same wave of all these new cases, is the same wave of all this stuff on social media. And I felt, as empowering as that was supposed to be, I felt like it really threw people off. And a few of my friends had said to me, Rochelle, and a few other people said they didn't like that mantra. And at first I was like, okay. But when it hit me, and I wasn't creating the way I wanted to create, I wasn't doing what I want to do, and then I saw everybody else doing it, I took a shift and, like, you know what, let me just sit back. So let's talk about how coronavirus has impacted entrepreneurs, or, people that work corporate. Like, for those who have a business or work for somebody else or starting a business, what advice would you give them to keep positive and keep going now when things don't seem certain and we don't know what we're going to do next?
Yeah. I think it's such a touchy subject, because I think it's just very hard to give advice about what to do in an uncertain time. Like, none of us have ever been in coronavirus season. Like, we have never, like, we don't know what the outcomes are. And I think the best advice that I have been given is, like, despite everything that may be changing around you, whether it's your job, maybe it's, all these different things, in your personal life and in your business, if there's something that you do have control over, right, that you do have the ability to access, let's say, you've already had a vision to, like, like you said, like withdrawing, and like you always wanted to be in fashion. If that was something you always had a vision on, work on that thing that you had already been doing, right? So maybe in the past, and I'm not saying that you have to be working, I'm just saying that whatever you were doing before, keep doing it. And if you have free time to do additional things, revisit your passions, revisit some of those things. Some people, like I talked to one of my friends earlier today, some people just need to be still and not do anything. Like, some of us are so used to always doing, going, moving. And this could be the biggest blessing that your life could have right now, because you have time to slow down. You may have a severance package. You may have all these things that it's really kind of a blessing to you, because you don't have the pressures of the rest of the world. So I would say, like I said, my precursor is, I am no expert in any of this. Nobody's an expert in COVID-19. Nobody's an expert in what you should do. But I think the thing that I felt like God was sharing with me and like my audience of women entrepreneurs was, when people started to run and panic and be like, oh my God, what do? I need to do this new thing because COVID-19. It's like, I wouldn't necessarily say do something new. Just do what you were already doing. If you already had a vision to write a book, start writing the book. Like, that's just literally if that's what you were doing. But you don't have to feel pressured to do that. Like, COVID-19 broke out. First thing I did, I watched Netflix and chill for the first 2 weeks. Like, that was me. I wasn't, like, I didn't think it was going to last this long. Like, I'm going to be honest. I was just like, oh, this is play, whatever. So I just stayed in the house. And then I was like, oh, this is real. Let me get back to what I was already doing. And so I think, the best thing that you can do as you transition with your career or whatever is to do whatever it is you were doing before. Take advantage and see the good in what you're in right now, even if you have lost your job, but just trust that everything is going to be okay. I think about every time I end up in a situation where I feel like things aren't going to be okay, I revisit that last scenario. I'm like, when was the last time I was freaking TF out trying to figure out how it was going to be okay? Like, everything worked out. So why would this be any different? Like, and so you just have to remind yourself that things are going to work out. You may go through some lows, but nothing that's too hard for you to bounce back from. But like you said earlier, just have those open and transparent conversations with other people when you're not doing well, because it's okay. Like, we don't need to force a level of normalcy that, like, everything around us is changing. So, like, just be chill and be okay with things being as they are and not putting pressure on yourself or anybody else to do anything different.
100%. The whole world has been turned upside down. And I think a lot of the panic came from people just trying to figure it out. But, you know, struggle breeds greatness. And through stillness, you will hear and find that process. And I've been preaching to everybody, you will never get this time back. This is the best time to spend time with family. Like you were saying, you don't have to hustle and go to 2 hours worth of work. You could work and you could be multitasking. So if it meant, like you said, writing that book, getting those things together. Also, for those who have a business or are thinking of starting a business or whatever it is you're doing, audit and adjust. That has been my biggest thing through this. Audit and adjust. There's still so much work to do. You have a brand, you have a business, get that website done. Audit your processes. Look at what money you made last year and your finances, what you spent on. Really have this time to dig deep into your brand, into yourself. Even also the self-care side of it. Like, I literally, I read this book called Simple Abundance, and literally I read it every night on top of my Bible and my devotional. I do about an hour and 15 every night in just talking to God, praying and doing a lot of reading. But the Simple Abundance book talked about having a drawer with your favorite things for when you feel down. So I literally cleared out a drawer. I put a blanket in there. Some of the things that I went and found my teddy bear that I've had. It's sitting on my bed right now.
Yeah.
But I've had this over almost 33 years from my godparents, candles and stuff. And have those moments for yourself, because I promise you guys this, when the world gets back to normal, and I'm air quoting, everyone's going to be rushing to keep up. And will you be able to keep up with the demand of everything? And then you're going to say, I wish I took that time to do this. I wish I took that time to do that. So speaking in one of the last few topics, because we are going on about the 15 minutes left around there, or 14. But for those of us that are staying home and jumping on lives, because jumping on a live, hosting a webinar, all of these things are popping now. We're going to see an influx of speakers and stuff. So how can people, because I know you talk a little bit about public speaking, can you share some public speaking tips, some advice for people in this life to be successful?
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
Sorry, Coco will go ask about the name of the book. It's called The Simple Abundance. Coco, I will put it up on my Instagram afterwards with the name of the author. I can't remember, but I will put it up so you guys could read it. But go ahead, sorry.
So the question was tips for people.
Public speaking, people who are becoming speakers now, or, virtual tours and stuff are going to be a thing right now. How can people be successful in that?
Yeah, I think one of the best things for helping you be comfortable on, like, camera is to go live. Like, literally, I started going live on Periscope back in 2015, and that was like, I had like 150,000 likes on Periscope. Like, it was like weird, like all of us, but I was consistent going live on Periscope. But I remember, like, the first time getting on Periscope being like, oh my God, I'm about to push the button. Everybody's going to see me on the other side of the screen. Oh my God! Like, I was freaking out. But and I had to work through the nervousness. And I think for me, as a person that was like a perfectionist, as someone who was always like, oh my God, I have to say this right. Or if I stumble over a word, I have to correct. And it's like, no, going live teaches you to connect with people. It teaches you to be yourself on camera. It teaches you, honestly, it teaches you how to be great off camera or on recordings. So even now, like one of the big things that I do is, I record a lot of content for my brand. I don't have to write scripts out. I don't be having to do all the extra stuff. I may have my bullet points. I'll talk things through and it'll be done. Why? Because I'm comfortable saying things. If I mess up, I don't feel like it has to be perfect. Like, and now we're going to say, like, I don't have to do all of that.
Yeah.
So go live as often as possible. Just like you're creating a series, you can create a series as well around a topic that you care about. That's something that really helps. There are so many different things. Actually, one of my the speakers that is speaking at Go Getter Confidential Summit, her name is Keisha Mabry. She is an amazing entrepreneur. She's getting ready to launch a speaking program, just teaching you how to be a more compelling speaker. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to be a more compelling speaker, here's the big thing. You got to reel people in from the beginning by either telling them a story, telling them some shocking statistic, by telling them, something that's going to reel them in on the beginning, and then go into the importance of what you're going to be talking about and then introduce yourself. I think a lot of times people think that you need to hop on and be like, and this is who I am. And it's like, they don't care about who you are. To reel them on in, tell them some cool, exciting story that's going to give them a reason to stay around and that's going to give them a way to connect with you. So I think that's kind of my advice. And I would definitely say shoot your shot for speaking opportunities. But right now, what I will say, because I'm hosting an event right now, and I'll say that as someone who hosts a lot of speaking events, and I also pitch myself for other speaking events as well, sometimes it can be overwhelming when people ask you to speak on your platform and they don't know you. And so I think one of the biggest things is if you want to become a speaker, just get involved in the communities that you see events happening in, build relationships, because then you'll be top of mind when people are thinking of you for, XYZ, a specific topic, but don't always be like, oh, can I speak? And especially if you're a complete stranger being like, hey, can I speak at your thing? And it's like, so has 20 other people asked the same question, but I don't know you. And I also don't know what type of content you even create. And so I think that's like really creating content through your Instagram live stories. That's really great. And using that content to repurpose it on your page is also really helpful, so people can hear how you speak. They can feel compelled by what you got to say, all of those things.
I tell people that all the time. I always say like this. I'll say it for myself. How can I tell people I want to be a speaker when my Instagram is full of selfies?
Yeah.
And I say it because when you talk to me, you know that I can speak and I have a wealth of knowledge, but you don't know that unless I'm in front of you. But when you're just blindly selling yourself, you have to have it. Even if you want to be a beauty influencer, guys, whatever, a mommy blogger, whatever it is you want to be. Listen, brands, they don't care that you have 200,000 followers. If your Instagram doesn't relate to what you've talked about, you've lost the mark. If your website doesn't relate or you don't have content to back it up, Instagram is your digital portfolio. It is the new resume. And so I need people to understand that. So few things. I do want you to quickly tell us a little bit about the Go Getter Confidential webinar summit you're hosting. Oh, and I will say, guys, I do slide in people's DMs, say, hey, I don't necessarily say I want to be a speaker, but I say I would love to be involved in this.
Yeah.
That you change the narrative, the involvement, because then I'm now opening the conversation, not necessarily say I'm a speaker, but hey, I have other skills, and we start building a dialogue where maybe if someone's full, they might consider me next time, but I say, how can I want to be involved. So try changing that. But let us know, we got about 9 minutes. Let us know about your summit quickly, and then I'm going to ask you my very last question, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. So Go Getter Confidential Summit is literally a online experience for women entrepreneurs to grow their audience, build their brands, and make money in the digital world. So we're really, we have over 20 speakers that are talking about how you can grow your audience, whether it be online, through like LinkedIn, Instagram, and we're helping you learn how to kind of transition your brand and whatever business you currently have into the online space through creating digital content, selling digital products. So this comes as a perfect time during COVID-19. A lot of our speakers are making passive income by way of things and products that they created a long time ago. So we're really bringing Christian women together to learn about how to make, money in this online space. One of the speakers we have is Rochelle Graham, who's the CEO of Allocate Naturals. We also have Travis Jackson. He is the founder of HBCU Pride Nation. They have a following. They have an audience of over like 2 million, I think. Same thing goes for Marie Kaba, who she's actually the CEO of Unconditioned Roots, and they have a following of like nearly 500, I think over 400,000 followers. So literally, I just brought all these people together to really pour in information into this audience, but it's literally completely free, like free.com, $3.99. It starts April 27th, goes through May 1st. All you have to do, literally just go to my bio, click the link in my bio, click Go Get Her Confidential Summit. It's completely free, April 27th through May 1st. And if you're one of the people who is like, I can't attend, or I won't be able to watch all of it live, we also have access to the recordings after the fact. So it's really about to be a game changer for a lot of people, especially as COVID-19 is like shifting the narrative of how many people do business.
That's amazing, guys. I will definitely be getting that information from Candace and posting that up as well on my social, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so how are you well connected, or what does being well connected mean to you?
Oh my goodness, I love this question because it's the question I always ask people for even Go Get Her Confidential Summit. I always talk about the value of staying connected. And I think for me, I've always been a very well-connected person, but I never thought of myself that way. I just build genuine relationships with people. And so I think your question is how to be well-connected, or how am I?
Yeah, how are you well connected, or what does being well connected mean to you?
Yep.
Either one.
Yep. So one of the ways that I stay well connected is I show up in the rooms at events that are meaningful to like the audience or the area that I'm in. So I built a lot of relationships just by meeting people in person. I also build relationships by commenting on people's stuff on social media and being genuine, sliding in DMs. And I've made a lot of friends that way. But I put myself out there, even I've gone to a lot of events by myself. I've shown up. I've reached out to people that, had no idea who I was and have built relationships with them over time. So I feel like I've always been well connected because I go out of my way to not just I also create spaces for people to connect. That's why I host Go Get Her Conference. That's why we have meetups that we've hosted all over. But I make sure that I'm positioning other people to connect. And I'm one of those people that I'm a connector. So if I'm like, oh, Jack, like you did that with me and Chloe, like where you were like, oh, this is a perfect person. But I'm also that person that if I connect with someone, if I don't have anything of value to bring them, I always can find a way to connect them with somebody else that I know. I'm like, I think you would be really great with this person, so that I'm still adding value to that person's life. So that's how I stay well connected. And you can still stay very well connected through COVID-19 because the internet is at our fingertips.
I always say be a solution never the problem. And there's times people reach out to me and I'm like, it's not within my skill set, but I promise you I will find you somebody that is that. And yeah, COVID-19, I mean, guys, celebrities are bored. Last night I was in Willie from Day 26's live. We were talking about relationships for like 15 minutes, just random. So it's a great opportunity. Lastly, how can people find you and connect with you? What's your @handle? I put it down here, but let those people know what's up.
Yeah, so the best way to connect with me online is Candace Junee everywhere. So CandaceJunee. Same thing goes for Epic Fab Girl. Our Twitter is weak sauce right now. So if you want to help us build our Twitter, we need your help. Okay. But we've got, you can find us on online at Epic Fab Girl on Instagram, as well as on our website. So we actually have blog content up on our blog, Epic Fab Girl. So that's the best way to stay connected with us.
Amazing. Well, Candace, you know what? I really appreciate you. I would love to keep this going, but I have another call I got. Yes. I'm not speaking, but I promised somebody I would support. But you guys, please, if you guys have any questions, please follow DM Candace. Tell her Jackie sent you, or tell her you were in this live. Please support. Definitely, guys, as soon as I get the information about the webinar. I will post it up. We'll get the links going. Support for the men in the building. This is also for, like, come holler at Candace, holler at myself. Just because we talked about women doesn't mean we're excluding you. It's not that type of party over here. But sis,
and we're both single. And
right,
fine.
right,
Okay.
right.
So if you know
Okay.
somebody that knows somebody, don't hold out.
But I appreciate your time. I'm so grateful I met you in Australia. Like, the amount of people I met in that trip was
phenomenally amazing, crazy.
Like, blessed. But guys, please connect with Candace. Candace, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and we will definitely do this again, because I feel we're gonna need a part two.
I'm down.
All right, girl. I love you so much.
See you.
Thank
love
you.
You too. Bye.
Bye. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I am so grateful for you guys to check out what we were up to, what we were doing. I couldn't have asked for a better conversation. This is the first conversation, the beginning of this series. I'll be bringing in new people. You don't have to have a big business. You don't have to have a small business. But if you have something to say, you have something that's inspiring, you want to connect with other people in different means, hit me up, let me know, and we'll figure out something and we'll talk. But during COVID, I want y'all to stay safe, stay present, and just keep doing you and follow the faith of your dreams. And I know that may not sound like it makes any sense, but follow the passion and purpose that you have wanted for yourself. All right? Stay blessed, and we will talk soon.